Ladies and gents, we had our general election here last week. We've had the second rounds taking place in Paris, France overnight. Team Starmer are straight to work in number 10 and number 11. Let's get into it. It's time for an alternative paper review. First up to the Daily Express this morning, who lead with our challenge to Labour, which is the story that... Wait, hang on a minute. Our challenge to Labour in shaping Britain's future. Today, the Express sets out its manifesto. Like, why are they challenging Labour? Like, the election's over. It's done. Your lot lost. That's what happened. The Tories already published their manifesto, their challenge to Labour. And do you know what the public did? They roundly told you to f*** off. I mean, even if you ignore the obvious, you're a bit late, aren't you, of this, I mean, can we just focus for a minute on the media bias that's on display here? Because if Rishi Sunak had won, if the Conservative Party had won the general election at the tail end of last week, could you ever imagine the Daily Express putting out a list of demands, a list of challenges to the new Conservative cabinet? No, of course not. It'd be like,
Well, I've got some things I'd like you to do for me.
less talk and more turning your noise hole into a sort of face pussy.
Okay.
Honestly, the Daily Express sets out its manifesto. Nah, mate. Anyway, from nah, mate to Nazis, The Guardian and Independent lead with the shock defeat of the French far-right party Front National, whose leader Marine Le Pen was crushed last night when a group of left-leaning parties all worked together, united, to see her off, making it the second instance of tactical voting and coordinated efforts by left-leaning parties and their voters to see off the threat of the populist nationalist right in a matter of days. You see, isn't it amazing what can be achieved? Who we can beat, who we can throw out of office when we stop arguing with each other and instead focus our efforts on removing people like Liz Truss or Marine Le Pen out of office or prevent them from retaining power. Reports quickly surfaced that Le Pen was seen sobbing inconsolably, which bizarrely doesn't make me feel good, especially as I now have to come to terms with the fact that it was the visage of a sad, distraught woman that most recently brought me to orgasm. I mean, just as a side note, I don't know why people like Le Pen, people like Suella Braverman get so upset when they get beaten at the ballot box. Like, if you're a far-right politician and you get beaten at the ballot box, if you get denied power or removed from office before you had a chance to fully roll out your plans, like, think of it like this. It's better that you get beaten at the ballot box than in a few years you get beaten in The Hague. Anyway, yes, not to drift too far away from the point, the lesson here is that we can actually beat these people when we all work together. We need to remember that. I think of the A-Team, right? Do you think Face and Hannibal wanted to listen to the same music off the car stereo as B.A. Baracus? Of course not. But did they find a way to ride together if it meant achieving their goals and taking out the bad guys? Absolutely. Although, weirdly, the A-Team were themselves sort of war criminals who may have ended up in The Hague. It's not important. It's not important. Let's move on. Over to the Times now, who report that the incoming Labour administration are looking at easing planning restrictions with a view to addressing the UK's housing shortage and directly taking on the NIMBYs who bought a house for like 20 grand in 1983, but who saw the value of those homes skyrocket. They were direct beneficiaries of the housing crisis, but who now complain that any new builds might bring down the value of their homes by like 1.7%. Or their other one is like they go out and they go like, oh well, we have we've got a set of badgers living in the bushes over there. You couldn't possibly turf out the badgers. And then of course they concurrently complain that their kids haven't moved out. Like, Dad, yes, me. My rent's just gone up again. I'm gonna have to move home. Oh, wow, Tommy. No, I'm afraid it's just not a good time at the moment. Me and your stepmother have made an obscene amount of money on the bungalow. We're gonna rent it out and then go and spend our retirement in a new villa in Spain. You what? I don't understand. Well, yeah, we made a lot of money on the house, so we're going to rent it out in the private rental market, and then we're going to use that as our pension, and we're going to go and buy a nice big villa with a pool in Malaga. Right. Okay, and it's all definitely happening, is it? Yeah, Yeah, no, I'm afraid so. I wish there was some way that we could undo it, but I don't want to. Right. So you're off to Malaga. Yeah. Great big bloody house, 5-bed, a nice big swimming pool. You'll have to come and visit. Visit? Me, the wife and kids are coming to live with you, you doddery old I mean, I joke, but should you find yourself in that situation where you've been dismissed by NIMBYs, crushed by the housing crisis, disparaged by your own parents who have made hundreds of thousands of pounds out of the housing crisis that you now suffer from, you could still at least write them a manifesto with a series of demands coming from a place of absolutely zero leverage. Finally, to the Telegraph, who report that prisoners may go free when they reach 40% of their jail term served. Indeed, this is a story that after 14 years of deprivation, defunding, corruption, incompetence and austerity, Labour have yet to fix the prison system in their first 48 hours on the job. Yeah. Same old Labour. Now, I've spoken about prisons before, but let's just quickly go over it again. They are truly underfunded, crumbling Victorian hellholes. Now, it's always a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Because it's never going to be much of a vote winner to say, yeah, I'm tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime, but also let me allocate 15 billion to rebuilding the prison system so it's a little bit more fit for purpose and comfortable. But you know what? If you don't allocate funding to it, it does descend to the point where it's little more than a sort of club 18 to 30s getaway, or where they become so overcrowded that you are forced to let out violent offenders early, which is exactly what the Tories were doing, even right up to the election. But I suppose it will surprise none of you to hear that brainiacs like bleached Frankenstein, Neanderthal, have wasted no time whatsoever in laying the blame at Labour's feet. But yeah, this is where the prison system is right now. It's the end game. It is the output of 14 years of successive Conservative governments defunding, deregulating, outsourcing, you know. But now Labour are in power, obviously it's their fault within the first couple of days. It must be a weird experience being a Labour minister and coming straight into this mess. You know, you've been railing against this stuff for years, ringing the alarm bells like, this is gonna collapse, like, why aren't you doing anything? And the whole time they just called you a doomster or a gloomster, a naysayer. Why are you talking Britain down? And now you finally get into power and they treat you like you're the Titanic about to hit the Koonsberg. They're like, oh my God, everything's awful. Everything's chaos. Why haven't you fixed the things that you habitually warned us about for 14 years that we always dismissed as Project Fear?
Hey yo, it's the alternative paper review. Coming in for you every day is the truth. Roasting the Tories, bring you the stories. A. Thompson talking blue in the room. Dude in the shed, big ears with a brew. Drunk off his head, it appears had a few. Age 42, saying what's new.